My name is Dorothy Grant, and I am a Haida artist. I grew up in Alaska. I was born in Heidelberg, Alaska, a Haida village. And I live in Tawasin, British Columbia, and this is my studio in my home. I'm inspired to do traditional Haida art from the early days in my 30s. I was a spruce root weaver and a regalia maker, making button robes for dance groups. And we were in a group of artists, of master artists in Northwest Coast art, like Bill Reed, Art Thompson, Robert Davidson, Roy Vickers, those real prominent artists of the 70s and 80s. And I was the young one off to the side, just listening in on conversations about the art. And the art was kind of on this sense of revival, of bringing up the old masters and reinvigorating new things that we could do with the art. The word innovation was constantly on the lips of these master artists. They wanted to do something more forward and based on tradition. So I was really influenced by those conversations. And at one of those meetings, the artist Bill Reed said, "You know, Haida art is such a classical art form. It is equal to, the Greek culture and their art form, that we must share it with the world in a way that's very contemporary, like fashion," he said. He said, somebody should be doing Haida fashion, or else somebody, uh, other designer, would take our designs and put it onto fashion and probably do it badly. So that was a real seed to me in my mind, and what I could do coming from a textile background, doing traditional work, understanding the form line. And I thought to myself, I could do that. I think I could do that. So that was the seed right there. And that was about 1983. So that was great influencer for me as an artist on what I could do in terms of stretching our boundaries in the art. The Haida art form line is so classic in shape, and I was always mesmerized by it. Even as a student in high school and in college, I gravitated back to the art. It was like it pulled me, and I began to understand all of its uses and how we used it traditionally. And then being part of that conversation of innovation um, really intrigued my uh, creative juices on what could I do, what could I do to add to this art form. And to me, the door was bringing it into a fashion arena. So that's what I started in 1986, was to start to apply Haida art in appliques, in cutout work, and like we did in button robes, but only applying it to fashion. And at that point, nobody had really done anything like that before, so it was quite new and edgy. And I like that. I like that. I like that boldness of being able to walk out with something new. And it took a lot of removing a lot of barriers within our own people about really what the art stood for. So I think that's in terms of what did I bring to the table, what new thing did I bring to the world. I would have to say it was just that, putting art onto fashion in a whole creative way. Well, I've got a twofold here in terms of how I operate my life, and that is as an artist. And then I say slash as a business person because I have run my own company. I have branded my product, my image, which I'm very very proud of that. And it's been a long trail. Um, so as entrepreneurs, we do everything to save our business, my company. So when COVID happened, COVID-19, I realized as I looked around, I was in Santa Fe at the time at School of Advanced Research as a fellow, and I didn't view myself as being stuck. I viewed it as okay, we got a challenge here. We got a challenge here because all of my trade shows are being cut off. All of my wholesale orders were being cut off. Basically, people were afraid to move in business, and this is I was kept up many nights as everybody in the world was, and so feeling this energy, I tapped into what I know how to do best, in terms of survival. Um, and for me, that was calling up my seamstress and just saying, how much fabric have we got left from making our clothing line? And she goes, we got lots of scraps. And I said, make masks, make masks. And I just found an N95 pattern on YouTube, send it to her. She started making them. So for about the first 3 weeks to a month, all we did was make masks and put them on social media. They all sold, and then we started making them in bulk. And so that's really what kept my company alive because there was no other resource. There was no other to keep the wheels greased in business. That's what I had to do, and then everybody started to follow suit. There were designer masks coming out, artists were making masks, and it was like, okay, grab a hold. This is the new way of life. This is the new way of life going forward. We're not going to put these masks down for a long time. They're going to be around. So I saw the writing on the wall. I also, have a good team here, even a design team where I said to them, we have to make COVID-19 related products. So let's do some small leathers people can pack around without having to pack a big handbag. So we designed these nice crossbody bags, these little wallets. And we're just bringing those in. So really, it was about um, looking at our culture now in a different way and what are the needs that people are wanting right now, and help to supply those needs in a very I would say Dorothy Grant way with Dorothy Grant images on it. So that's what we've done. And so I came back from Santa Fe and I needed a job. I needed something creative to do. So I started digging through all of my bins of fabric and boxes in my inventory room, and I found this box of hat blanks. And I'm like, oh my God, I bought these from New York about 9 years ago. I still had the invoice in the box. And there was about eight, what we call them in the hat business, they're hoods. They're a fur felt. And I had the wooden hat mold. I already had one made that was just sitting on its block for a long time, waiting for me to get to it, to put art on it. And I pulled it out and I go, I can make hats. I can make hats. That's what I need to do to get my hands moving again, because I was so busy in the beginning just doing the nitty gritty of business, the admin, all the stuff to make that work. So I started just by I just Googled how do you make a fur felt hat. Although I've done it before, but this was like 30 years ago when I debuted in 1989. I made these Haida shaped fur felt hats. So it had been several years since I had approached doing them again, and I just challenged myself to make them, to make one. And so that's what I did. I started making these hats. I put them on social media, the finished product, and the response just blew my mind because everybody wanted one. I shouldn't say everybody, but people wanted them. So I'm going to share this hat with you. This hat I made 32 years ago, 1988. It is called Human Transformation. And as you can see, the shape of the hat is the Haida traditional shape. I had a hat mold made, a wood block made of this so that I could form the hat. This hat is called, I call it Lilac Ravens. I love these colors. I love the process of making it. I love the tactileness of touching the fabric. It's made of fur. Felting is an ancient process. It's like if you looked it up, Googled it. Felting is like the oldest form of fabric making. It's hundreds and hundreds. So it kind of goes in line with putting it on a Haida traditional shape. And then, like I spoke about appliques, cut work, and how I've used that to apply to the body and in a sense of fashion. So I wondered why had this the hats taken on such a how would I say appeal to people, um, and it has to do with identity. It has to do with that sense of entry into a room in a command of attention, like a speaker. I have sold these hats, made these hats for chancellors of universities, for artists to who want that presence. I've made it for ceremonial dancers who um, want something contemporary. So the appeal is still a mystery, and I want to show you another piece because this one I'm quite happy with it because it tells a story about somebody. And I think that's the personalness behind these hats. So this hat was commissioned by a fiance for his bride to be. And it's white on white. And that's what he wanted for her. But he said, she we have been dating, and our first date was in a forest, and I brought her a bouquet of daisies, and so daisies has been a theme throughout our relationship. Can you maybe incorporate a daisy in there? And so I've never done a flower on an applique before, so I designed a daisy with a little yellow mother of pearl button as the center of the daisy. And then I just put the green around it so that it accentuates the background. And you could clearly see the daisy and the white ravens. So I'm showing this because hats can be a symbol of your life, of your personal story, much like a crest or um, something that means something to you. And I think that that's what the appeal of these hats are, is that it's not a garment. It's something that doesn't have to have a size issue, and people can keep it as a piece of artwork. Yes, I am surrounded by a lot of other younger artists who, we talk in the same sort of vein as I looked at the master artists in the '80s. I think these young people are looking at me that way. Uh, just because I say that because I've been there before, where I admonished these master artists and followed their lead, really. And by just pure example of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, I am mentoring a lot of young people in my own community, and I use social media a lot and post these on all social media platforms. And I think that has a real effect. And I will be an educator soon. I will be teaching everything that I know about business and art. In the last 33 years, I will be teaching at a university soon. By in this COVID-19 world, I'll be teaching by Zoom. What I have to say is to artists out there, Native American artists, First Nations artists in Canada, have a message through their work, and their I say that all artists are entrepreneurs because we put ourselves in risk every day of doing our work and of bringing it to market. It's a risk, and during this COVID time, we have to even be braver to rise to that risk and say that we have something to offer the world, something of beauty, and something that's necessary to keep ourselves going and the arts going. And it's important. Art is not just uh, a how do I say, art is important, art is essential. And as artists, we must take that and keep that seriously within our heart to know that we have something of value to offer the world. It's been fun. Thanks for having me.